I love that scene, but one of the things I like best about it is when you're going through that, and then they pan over,
and
you
pan
see,
over, and my
and
5-year-old
you
has
see
been
a little
watching the
5-year-old
whole
just sitting
thing.
there
God,
watching,
yeah,
and you know, what's this kid's life gonna be?
Yeah.
You know?
yeah.
Hi, this is for each of the cast members. I'm curious if any of you have ever conned anyone before, whether it's like just fibbing in an whether it's like fibbing in an audition to get a role, or you know, a family member or something like nice like that. So, thanks.
No. No, I've never conned anybody. I'm a horrible liar, so but I've tried. It just doesn't usually work. I usually have to come back with the truth pretty quickly. So.
Question for Amy. I don't want Mr. Russell's neck to snap because it's not a love triangle, but I wonder if you could talk about playing sort of her shifting alliances within what was happening, if that was interesting to play in terms of Richie and Irving once sort of the breakup happens.
Yeah. No, it was a very delicate balance because it was sort of, I mean, she comes from just, this is a girl who she says she wants to be anyone other than who she is. And that's where we meet her. She's already at a point of reinvention. And she meets Irving, and he presents to her who she wants to be. He sees her as smart. He sees her as intelligent. He sees her as a lady. He brings her in. She loves him. She feels found. And then he betrays her. That's not cool. So she says she's going to, go after Richie. You guys know this, but I think there are moments within going back and forth where she's not sure how she feels. She's starting to believe her own lies. Maybe this could work with Richie. Maybe I do like Richie. I think she says that. I think she feels like maybe I could go there. And I think that's when, and it was really an interesting dynamic to play a woman who's torn between, it's not that she's even torn between two guys, she's torn between truth and lie. And is she going to believe the lie that she's telling herself, or is she going to land in the truth? And I don't know that she's ever had to really confront that before. And the truth hurts, and the truth is a lot harder. And I think when Richie says, I love you, okay, there, I went there. And I think the melt is, could he love me? And the vulnerability and wanting so much for that to be real is really just wanting somebody to see the truth of who she is and love her. I think every girl knows how that feels. She's just a little crazy about it, but it was an interesting and difficult dynamic to play, but really fun. And these guys are, I'm working with like the best actors in the world, so it makes it a lot of fun.
I saw it as a declaration of independence. There was even a moment in the scene where you walked away from both guys and you said, I don't know, if it doesn't work with any of you, maybe Richie will turn out to be real for me, and if not, I'll go my own way. So it was a true declaration of someone who had always found a safe port in a storm, finally saying, I will have no ports. Maybe I'll have this port if this is real. I'm not going to be with the port that still has a wife. That's done.
Yeah. That's the survivor in her, and the survivor, we talk a lot about that, like the theme of survival and reinvention, and, that's the survivor.
I wanted to know if the lure and excitement of acting for you guys is the fact that you get to reinvent yourself with each role.
For me, definitely, it's studying people. That's what It's nice. Everybody at nighttime they dream and they tend to go a little insane, and that's acceptable, because we're dreaming and stuff. And it's a little bit, to me, it's sort of dreaming in a waking state, because you get to study people and you get to go a little insane and you get to be obsessive about something, and it's expected. And the more that you are, the better it is. And I find that very addictive.
I've never felt the only thing that because it's a study of people. It's kind of like all of these things that I've been doing since I was little that were always useless, in Kentucky, just watching people and studying them and being able to mimic their body language and things like that, and being able to figure out a person, like what kind of person are you playing? How do they move? How do they walk? But between action and cut, it's kind of almost like meditating in a weird way, because anything that you're feeling, like if I'm cold in between action and cut, I'm not. Or if I'm in physical pain in between action and cut, I'm not. I'm in a completely different frame of mind, and it's a high.
So I was wondering about how you decided creating the world of this era, and it's obviously an over-the-top era in many ways. And what elements did you decide to highlight? Was there anything from the era that, for the actors, that you went back and sort of watched or looked at to revisit it? So.
Say though, I think it's only over the top to us now, looking back at the fashions and the era, because it was such a wonderfully exuberant era, it was like Halloween for a decade, and the colors were garish, and the style was just phenomenal for us to look back on. But the people themselves, we're no different. We're no different now.
I never think of doing a period per se. Again, it all comes from the feet up, as Irving would say. Which was this man quoting Bob Hoskins, as he had taught him as an actor, not from the ears up, but from the feet up. And that's everything. That's what Jennifer was just talking about. That's what everybody here did, is to be a student of human behavior. And that's what Christian and I spoke about in his backyard, as this character, almost as an artist or a director or a theater director. That was an idea that we loved. And how everyone is that to some degree in their lives. We all must look at and figure out our bosses, our coworkers, our lovers, our everything. And it's a constant study of human behavior, which is always fascinating and unpredictable, and sometimes by turns horrible and magical. So I never thought of the era per se. I have a great personal affection for it. It's the second film I've written about that era. I wrote another one about my youth, and I have a great affection for this area. My relatives are scattered all over this area, from New Jersey to the Bronx to Long Island, and so many of them are in the film. I mean, the fellow who smashes onto the table when they're to break the tension with Mr. De Niro, and it is nice to have at the end of that dark tunnel where you don't know where it's leading, Robert De Niro, as the formidable person who's suddenly speaking Arabic. My cousin Richie smashed in that table, and he's a great, he's a working guy, and and these are the people that I started to wake up and realize what a treasure trove they are of humanity when I made The Fighter. So to me, it starts from there. I have a personal affection for all those, all the music I named, and the places, many of which were in the actual story. But beyond that, I don't try to think, well, I'm doing the 70s. Just like I didn't think I was doing boxing. It's all grounded in these people.
Hi, my question's for Jennifer. As we've heard, one of the appeals of this film is its focus on masks and surfaces and artificiality, and there's a thematic connection to be made to the fakery of the Capitol and the Hunger Games. And I was wondering if you often think about these kind of connections in your work, and also, what do you think Katniss and Rosalind would think of each other or say to each other if they were to cross paths with one another?
We talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
On the set.
I actually brought the Hunger Games books to set.
We shot arrows together.
Yeah, we did. No, every movie is different. Every character is different. I have no idea what the Katniss and Rosalind, but I don't even want to say that sentence because it's just going to make me. I don't want anybody to print it. Every movie's different.
Katniss would break a nail, I think, and would not appreciate the nail polish.
Wilson.
I mean, everybody up here was a storyteller the whole time. I've never done a film that was such a broad storytelling. These guys came in multiple times, Bradley, Amy, Christian, to tailor fit the narration and hand it off. So you have Bradley Cooper narrating and introducing us to Carmine Polito as it's been told to him by Louis C.K., and that just is the kind of storytelling that I found cinematic and propulsive, and how we hear about other people who are suddenly in our lives, and to feel the voice and the intimacy of Sidney in our ear, or Richie in our ear, Irving. That was just a wonderful thing to hand off. And I would say, as a student of human behavior, I saw all these people change. You know, I mean, you walked differently by chewing your tongue. Some relative of his had done. It changed the hunch of his shoulders, and it changed the look in his eye. I love seeing when actors do what Jennifer and Christian just described. They sort of trance out, and that's one of the whole things I live for, is to see that happen. And I live for the moment when these two dreamers and strivers, these two lovely New York area misfits, Carmine and Irving, are suddenly on the street, shoved out of the mafia car with their shirts ripped open. They're standing there like, what is happening to us? They're trying to live their dream, and what's happened? I mean, those are moments that I feel like you can see any day on the streets of New York, and you think, what has happened to that person? And it was wonderful to see, oh, this is what happened to that person, you know? And it did involve lots of exciting and strange people.
Wilson. Bradley, can you talk about working with Louis C.K.? Because I thought that you had the most funniest scenes in that film.
Yeah, it was. Man, I've hit the jackpot. I think with working with the two best comedians around, Zach Galifianakis and Louis C.K. And you know, he was just unbelievable. And David just was perfect casting. But you know, you never do know when you get into the room with somebody. But we just flowed. It was like, it just worked. It was effortless and addictive, and we wanted more. We just we've become friends since, and we both sort of look back on those scenes with a lot of delight. And you know, and it was Louis's idea to put that last thing in about their final exchange, which was, we were laughing so hard on the day when we were walking down the hallway and they're yelling at each other about the ice fishing story, just that it had gotten to that point.
I want to know the end of that ice fishing story. My brother, I'm going to call your brother. My brother's dead. I knew it. That's how it ended. He fell through the ice. No, he died a different way, many years later. Yeah.
But he was wonderful. Yeah, and it's funny when you say working with Louis C.K. My memory of it is all of us working together, because the way we make this movie is not just the two actors talking to each other. David's right there. It feels like he was in the scene with us, along with the camera operator and the boom operator. So, you know, it's just, he came into the fold of the community. I mean, it really is like a sporting event almost, that everybody gets on the field every day. It just made me think of that when you said just working with him. I cherish
the flexibility, as Christian described, of each of these actors strapping into their characters every day, and me saying, I'm going to try a different scene with your character today that we're going to squeeze into the schedule, whether it's Live and Let Die. I mean, that, you know, not everybody is okay working like that. There are people who like to work in a far more controlled, methodical way, and I tip my hat. The trust of these actors is everything to me. Without it, I can't do the work, and we can't make this film. So it's the greatest privilege ever. I'm able to come in and say, I think I want to plumb the depths of Carmine and Irving's friendship. So we shot a sequence that we didn't keep in the picture because we didn't have time, of where Irving goes to Louis C.K. and says, what if we could make this investment real? Because he so likes Carmine, and he likes what Carmine, and Louis C.K. says, what are you talking about? It's like a fake FBI thing. But it wouldn't be fake. If I found another investor, it wouldn't be fake. And then nobody would go to jail, and then like this guy could actually get the money for the investment, and it's like out of his affection for him, and he pitches it to Carmine on the street. It's a wonderful scene. I mean, and then these bankers come in, and it's just this, they're completely humiliated by these bankers who won't have anything to do with them. But hopefully we'll put it on the DVD. But it was just a wonderful bit of acting that I was grateful for.
A question for the producers up here, the back corner. If you could talk about working with David, what's new and different every time, and whether he makes your job easier or difficult, I don't know.
Easier.
The producer.
Oh, the producers. Oh, sorry.
Our one question, Bradley.
Yeah, sorry. No, I thought he said she said actors.
If Bradley could answer for the producers.
No, please.
I think that ultimately it makes your life easier, but because you're dealing with things that are spontaneous all the time, you have to react to that spontaneity. And, you know, as a producer, you have to make sure that by the time things are finished, in the shooting, it's as locked down as possible. So sometimes you're scrambling, but ultimately it's very exhilarating.